one of the things that I've talked about this a lot on the show before. I'm somebody who was pro-choice for many years, and I changed my mind on this. And I was kind of I was grappling with the idea for a while. I listened to a lot of the pro-life people make arguments that you go, that is a pretty convincing argument. And for a while, maybe from, I don't know, around like 2016, 2017, like those years, I was like, shit, this is actually really tough. And I started to rethink my pro-choice positions. But in 2018, my wife got pregnant and we had our first child, and I just completely changed my mind after that. After that, it was like I just never looked at it the same way, and I was like, yeah, this is just morally indefensible. The idea that it's just okay to kill the baby because it's inside of its mother. As soon as it comes out, yeah, we all agree it's horrific. But because it was inside, then it's okay somehow. This seemed like ridiculous. And now the more I look back at it, it's like, yeah, it's just ridiculous. The argument, like it just, and as I've mentioned before on the show, and I think even you, as somebody who doesn't have these kind of like strong pro-life feelings that I have, you've mentioned that you've noticed this too, this point that I made, that so many of the pro-life, so many of the pro-choice arguments refuse to even address this. Like they refuse to even take on the argument, which is so obviously the central argument. Like, why is it okay to kill a baby when it's inside the mother? Like, why is that okay? And they'll just go to all these other issues, like, do you know these kind of like consequentialist arguments. Well, do you know what this will lead to? Or do you know that, whatever, all of these other things that, do you know, so you're insisting that women, have to carry the baby to term, or you're insisting, like all these other different arguments, but like none of them are actually addressing what the root pro-life argument is, which is that we do not see a moral difference between killing the baby outside of the womb or inside of the womb. That's the fundamental claim. And there's usually, when people do try to address that argument, they fail miserably, in my experience, from what I've seen. Now, it doesn't mean that there'll be these arguments of like, but don't you feel bad for the woman who's in this situation? Or don't you, what if these laws are enforced in very bad ways? Or what if this? But none of that actually addresses the root of the argument, which is that, like, why is this acceptable? And what I've found very often, if you really get down to it, if you keep kind of peeling, like in the same sense, Rob, because sales very well, like one of the goals of sales is to kind of like peel away like the layers of the onion till you get to what's really going on. You kind of peel away the bullshit rebuttals until you get to what the real problem is. So someone will be like, well, the fucking, well, it's inconvenient. You go, we can make it very convenient. They go, well, it's just this. And you peel that away. You take away that. And then you get down to what the real thing is, which is like, I just don't want to spend the money. And then it's like, okay, at least now you're at the real problem. And with the abortion debate, I think a lot of times when you peel that down, what you get down to is that it's just like, well, then life can't work the way I want it to work if abortion's illegal. Well, then we just can't be in a system where I can go out and just have sex when I want to have sex. Like that's, and look, I'm not even saying like the response to that should be to like dismiss that concern. I'm just saying that like that's when it's almost like that's when you can start having a real conversation, is once you get down to what the real concern is. Now, the problem is that if you haven't addressed this fundamental moral issue, what you're saying is that you should be allowed to kill a baby because otherwise it's really inconvenient to the way you want to live your life. Now, I know that's a tough thing for people to grapple with. I know it's not fun, to deal with that. But that is the reality of the situation.